all the attention that you've gotten?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like at this point I'm pretty used to it, and I always tell people, like, I wouldn't want it any other way. Like, I'm happy to do media before every single game, especially when we're on the road. And there's a lot of people that maybe this is their first time getting to see us play, or all of you maybe the first time. Obviously, it's my first time in San Francisco, so you know, I try to look at it in the best possible manner that I can, and it's, you know, it's still fun for me. And you know, there's a lot of people that would want to be in my shoes and have those types of honor.
That right there is the Caitlin Clark the public rarely sees. Thoughtful, self-aware, talking about the weight of constant attention. But here's what makes her January 1st tweet so fascinating. After staying completely silent on social media through the entire offseason, her first post of 2025 wasn't about gratitude or New Year's resolutions. It was calling out referees. Again, on January 1st, Clark quote-tweeted an Iowa Hawkeyes game with 4 words, "not remotely close to being a charge." Within 48 hours, that post hit 339,000 views and generated 127 comments. And the reactions tell you everything about where we are right now, with the WNBA's star and the officials who've become her favorite target.
I was a young kid too, like, you know, even when you're a high school basketball player, there's young girls looking up to you and wanting to be like you, and you got to try to set the best example you can 100% of the time. And, you know, no one's going to be perfect by any means, but I think just reminding myself.
Exactly. She's reminding everyone that those young girls are watching, which makes her referee criticism even more interesting. Because what message does that send? Is she teaching them to stand up for themselves? Or is she modeling the same behavior that got her technical fouls last season? Let's be clear about the timeline here. Caitlin Clark hasn't just been vocal about officiating in the WNBA. Her history with referees goes back to her college days at Iowa, where she became known for her emotional reactions to calls. We're talking visible frustration, animated gesturing, the whole package. That intensity is part of what makes her compelling to watch. But it's also created this ongoing tension with officials at every level she's played.
LOL. But yep, you are right, though. Happy New Year's. Agree. Glad to know you're watching your Hawks. It goes on to say, get them, Caitlin. Then it say, tell them, Kate. Agree. So Caitlin Clark is definitely watching the Iowa Hawkeyes. It says, absolutely agree. The defender was still moving when contact was initiated. Textbook blocking foul. Extreme low defense.
One fan replied to her tweet, "I take it your continuing war with refs wasn't one of your New Year's resolutions, LOL." Another wrote, "Caitlin versus referees 2025, round 1. The interesting part, Clark's engagement with referee criticism gets more traction than almost anything else she posts. It's become part of her brand, whether the league likes it or not. Now, while Clark was calling out college refs on social media, something else was happening that reveals just how massive her impact has been on the Indiana Fever franchise. The numbers that dropped on January 1st show a gap that's almost uncomfortable to talk about.
Media, it really, really should. Somebody said the Indiana Fever is so blessed to have Caitlin Clark. I don't know what this is. It says January 1st, Instagram 2026. Wow. It says WNBA Instagram followers on January 6th. Indiana Fever currently is almost at 1 million. The Aces at 600,000. Chicago Sky 500. Los Angeles Sports 4. The New York Liberty 4. Now, New York Liberty is one of the highest grossing franchise. Dallas Wings only at 300,000. They got Paige Beckers.
Those Instagram follower counts tell a brutal story. As of January 6th, the Indiana Fever sits at almost 1 million followers. The Las Vegas Aces, a dynasty team with multiple championships, has 600,000. The New York Liberty, who just won the championship and have the highest revenue in the league, are at 300,000. Think about that. The Fever have more than triple the social media following of the reigning champions. Golden State Valkyries, the new expansion team everyone's excited about, has 280,000. Seattle Storm, Connecticut Sun, all sitting under 300,000. The gap between Indiana and everyone else isn't just significant, it's a chasm, and everyone knows exactly why. One comment under that Instagram data said it perfectly. Can't believe the Fever almost at 1 milli. They're definitely hitting that this year. But here's the reality check. They might not hit it this year if the current CBA negotiations don't get resolved. Because as of January 3rd, we're 6 days away from a potential work stoppage that could derail the entire 2025 season.
It's just great to see her doing this stuff for the community, for the kids out there, man. And I just wish more people would do charitable work, because it just really uplifts your spirit. One of the kindest things you could do to somebody, well, for somebody is give back, giving back and happiness and just seeing.
The creator of this video mentioned losing 25 subscribers over a previous CBA video. That tells you something important about where the fan base is right now. People don't want to hear about labor negotiations and revenue sharing percentages. They want to watch Caitlin Clark play basketball. But the business side of this league is about to force everyone to pay attention, whether they want to or not. The current collective bargaining agreement expires on January 9th. If the players' union and the league can't reach a deal by then, we're looking at a potential lockout scenario. The players want a larger share of revenue, guaranteed contracts, improved travel conditions, and better maternity benefits. The owners are negotiating from a position where most franchises still aren't profitable, despite the massive ratings boost from Clark's rookie season. Here's what makes this particularly complicated. Caitlin Clark's presence increased the value of the entire league, but that value hasn't translated into profits yet. The Indiana Fever saw their attendance jump, their merchandise sales exploded, their TV ratings went through the roof. But higher player salaries, charter flights, and improved facilities all cost money that most teams don't have in their budgets. The disconnect between fan interest and financial reality is creating this impossible situation. Fans see sold-out arenas and assume the money is flowing. Players see their male counterparts in the NBA making generational wealth and wonder why they're still fighting for basic accommodations. Owners see red ink on balance sheets and wonder how long they're supposed to subsidize losses while building something sustainable.
They have no faith in the players or the owners. I've been reading a lot of you guys' comments, and to be quite frankly, they have not been positive. They have not been good comments at all. And I guess we just got to take it one day at a time. But with that being said, let's pull up this information about Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever taking over Instagram.
That charitable work is real, and it matters. The Caitlin Clark Foundation has been doing significant community outreach, particularly focused on youth basketball programs and education initiatives. But even that positive story gets overshadowed by the business drama hanging over the league right now. The comment section on WNBA content has become increasingly negative, and you can feel the frustration building. People aren't just worried about a delayed season. They're losing faith that the league's leadership can navigate this moment successfully. When your biggest star is posting about referee incompetence and your labor negotiations are heading toward a potential shutdown, that's not the narrative you want 6 months before tip-off.
Opportunities, and I think it's always good to remind yourself, like, there's always eyes on you. And I think my mom has always reminded me that ever since I was a young kid too. Like, even when you're a high school basketball player, there's young girls looking up to you and wanting to be like you, and you got to try to set the best example you can 100% of the time. And no one's going to be perfect by any means, but I think just reminding myself of that, how grateful I am to be in this position, and it is my responsibility to try to help grow this game and do it to the best.
Paige Bueckers is about to enter the WNBA draft, and the comparison to Clark is inevitable. Bueckers has a dedicated following among hardcore women's basketball fans, the old guard, as they're being called. Her game is smooth, fundamentally sound, and she's been hyped as a generational talent since high school. But her ability to draw mainstream casual fans, that's the question nobody wants to ask out loud. The video creator said it plainly: she's no Caitlin Clark when it comes to garnering fans and star power. That's not a slight against Bueckers' game, it's a recognition that crossover appeal is rare and unpredictable. Clark connected with people who'd never watched women's basketball before. She became a cultural phenomenon beyond sports. That's not something you can manufacture or replicate just because someone is talented. The league is hoping Bueckers can sustain some of the momentum Clark created. But if the 2025 season gets delayed or canceled because of CBA negotiations, Bueckers' rookie year loses all its promotional value. The media cycle moves on, casual fans and suddenly you're back to trying to convince people to care about a league that couldn't get its business sorted out during its biggest moment of cultural relevance. Listen to what she's saying there. There's a lot of people that would want to be in my shoes and have those types of opportunities. That's the perspective of someone who understands exactly how rare her position is. She gets it. The attention, the pressure, the scrutiny, she's choosing to embrace it rather than run from it. But here's the tension. Clark says she's happy to do media for every single game, especially on the road where it might be fans' first time seeing her play. That's the right attitude for growing the sport. But then she turns around and uses her massive platform to publicly criticize officials, which the league absolutely does not want their marquee player doing. Those two things are in direct conflict. The WNBA needs Caitlin Clark to be their ambassador, their face, their bridge to mainstream audiences. But they also need her to fall in line with league messaging and not create controversies that distract from the product. Clark seems willing to do the promotional work, but she's not willing to bite her tongue when she thinks officials are incompetent. That's going to be an ongoing problem. So here's where we are as January rolls along. The WNBA is 6 days away from a potential labor dispute that could shut down the season. Their biggest star just broke her social media silence to complain about referees. The Indiana Fever's social media dominance is so extreme, it's making other franchises look irrelevant by comparison. And Paige Buckers is about to enter a league that might not have a season for her to play in. The CBA negotiations are the story nobody wants to cover because it's complicated and boring compared to highlight reels and drama. But it's the story that actually matters right now. If the players and owners can't find common ground by January 9th, everything else becomes irrelevant. No games means no Caitlin Clark content. No rookie debuts for Buckers. No momentum building on last season's rating success. Just a league that shot itself in the foot during the most important moment in its history. The players have legitimate grievances. Traveling on commercial flights while generating record revenue is absurd. Making poverty-level wages while the NBA players in the same arenas make millions creates obvious resentment. The lack of guaranteed contracts and inadequate maternity leave policies are indefensible. They deserve better, and they're right to fight for it. But the owners aren't cartoon villains hoarding profits. Most WNBA franchises lose money every year. The league has been subsidized by the NBA for its entire existence. Yes, revenue increased dramatically in 2024, but one good year doesn't erase decades of losses or guarantee future profitability. Building a sustainable business model takes time, and the owners are legitimately concerned about committing to expenses they can't afford long-term. That's the impossible middle ground both sides are trying to navigate. Players who've earned the right to demand more, and owners who don't have unlimited resources to give them. Meanwhile, fans are caught in between, watching the sport they've grown to love potentially disappear because the business side can't figure itself out. Caitlin Clark's referee tweet is a perfect microcosm of the larger issue. She has the platform to say whatever she wants, and her fans will support her no matter what. But the league needs her to be more than just authentic. They need her to be strategic. They need her to understand that every public criticism of officials makes their job hard. Every controversy gives casual fans a reason to tune out. The comment about losing 25 subscribers over CBA content reveals the disconnect. Hardcore fans want to talk about the business of basketball. They understand that labor negotiations and revenue models matter. But the casual audience that Clark brought to WNBA, they just want to watch her shoot threes and break records. They don't care about collective bargaining agreements or charter flight policies. And if the season gets delayed because of those issues, they'll move on to something else. That's the real risk here. The WNBA has spent 25 years trying to build a sustainable fan base, and Caitlin Clark gave them a shortcut to mainstream relevance in one season. But that relevance is fragile. It's built on momentum and cultural timing, and the novelty of a transcendent talent. If you interrupt that momentum with a labor dispute, you might never get it back. The Indiana Fever's Instagram numbers show what's possible. They're approaching 1 million followers because of one player. That's both incredibly exciting and deeply concerning. What happens if Clark gets injured? What happens if she decides the referee criticism and constant media obligations aren't worth it anymore? What happens if she takes her talents overseas where she'd be treated like royalty and paid accordingly? The entire league's newfound relevance is built on a foundation that could crumble overnight. So when we talk about Caitlin Clark's first tweet of 2025 being about referees, we're really talking about control. She's asserting that she'll use her platform however she wants. League preferences be damned. That independence is part of what makes her compelling. but it's also what makes her complicated for the WNBA to manage. They need her more than she needs them, and everyone knows it. The next 6 days are going to determine whether the 2025 WNBA season happens on schedule, gets delayed, or potentially doesn't happen at all. If the players and owners can't reach an agreement, we're looking at a work stoppage that would devastate the momentum built over the last year. And all of this is happening while the league's biggest star is posting referee complaints, and the fan base is growing increasingly cynical about leadership's ability to navigate basic business decisions. Here's the question worth asking. Is Caitlin Clark's referee criticism a distraction from the real issues facing the WNBA? Or is it actually a symptom of the same problem? Maybe her willingness to publicly call out incompetence is exactly what the league needs more of. Maybe if players, owners, and officials were all held to higher standards of accountability, some of these systemic issues would resolve themselves. Or maybe I'm giving too much credit to a social media post about a college basketball game. Either way, the clock is ticking. January 9th is coming fast, and when that deadline hits, we'll find out whether the WNBA can capitalize on its moment of mainstream relevance, or whether it's about to waste the best opportunity it's ever had. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think the CBA gets resolved in time, or are we headed for a delayed season? And should Caitlin Clark keep calling out referees, or does she need to protect the league's image? Let me know what you think, and if you made it this far, hit that subscribe button because we're going to be covering every development as this situation unfolds.